Hello and welcome to another edition of the Interstellar Modeler. What I'd like to do in this video is to feature my Polar Lights Jupiter 2 model. Now, as many of you may know, there were two versions of this ship released, and this is the first of the two. So this is the smaller of the two versions. So this one measures about 12 inches, I believe, and then the newer one I think is around 18 inches. And so this was released, I'd say, gosh, at least 10 years ago. And I remember when it was released, I was pretty excited because this is one of those ships I used to want as a kid. And so I rushed out to the model store and got a hold of the kit, brought it home, opened it up, and realized that it's very detailed on the inside. So that actually kept me from proceeding with the project right away, and then ended up sitting on my shelf for quite a long time. So it really wasn't that long ago that I decided to finally put this together, and in a lot of ways I'm glad I waited, because they eventually came out with a number of things to help detail the ship. So what I'd like to do is to go over the ship with you, and basically from top to bottom, and show you how I detailed it. And so first thing, let me talk about the exterior hull. So the basically came with three pieces. It came with the bottom piece, this top middle section, and then the very top plate right here. And this came separated from this, and that's one thing I didn't like about the model right off the bat, because it really, if you left it that way, and I think they did that so that you could open up the top and expose the detail on the inside, it left this very strong line that separated this piece from here. And if you watch the show, you realize it's pretty much a smooth transition there. So what I decided to do was to glue the piece on there, and then to, of course, work at hiding the seam. So not one of my best efforts to hide seams here, but I think it works overall. And once it was painted, I think it is a pretty decent job, but I don't know, I felt I could have done a little bit better. So let's proceed now to the rest of the ship. What I'm going to do is basically go from the bottom up and show you first of all how I did the fusion core, and then how I detailed the interior. Okay, so let's start with the bottom half of the model here, and I can tell you that the first thing that I saw that was going to be a challenge was this covering to the fusion core, mainly because it came clear. And so I knew, looking at different pictures online, that it had to be painted in such a way that you would leave these square areas clear, and there are even square areas inside here that need to remain clear, so that when you do light it up, the light will shine through those areas. And honestly, I didn't know how I was going to do that, but I eventually did come across a solution, and that was using liquid mask. And again, this is a product that's basically a liquid latex material that you brush on with a brush. And that's what I did here. I brushed on 3 coats and applied it to every single one of these little lenses here along the edge and along the inner part here. And then I painted it, and then I took my sharp X-Acto knife and cut away at all the areas that I had covered with the liquid latex, and I was really pleased with the way it turned out, because as you can see, to me it really does look like a metal fitting that's covering the fusion core. So it took a little bit of time. Obviously it's a little time consuming and a little tedious, but as you can see, it is well worth spending the time to do that. And let me just show you a quick picture of what it looked like peeling away the pieces with the X-Acto knife. Now with the landing pads here, I went ahead and purchased pieces that were a little more accurate here for the actual pads, so I did replace the original ones that came with the model. Things that I've seen, one thing that I've seen online with other builds is that people have taken the time to cut all this out and build the interior of the bay that houses each of the landing pads. That's a lot of work, and something that I really didn't want to do, so I left it this way. So one of the reasons that I'm glad I did wait was because they eventually came out with fusion cores that you could insert into the model. Now this fusion core I purchased from monstersinmotion.com, and so that's a great website, by the way, if you ever want to just sit and browse through a website that has a lot of stuff in it. Monsters in Motion is a great one to go to, but they were still selling this. I'm not sure you can still find this because this is the older version, but I did get a hold of this, which was great because this all comes soldered already with these wires and the switch. Actually, there's two switches here, and of course the connector here for the battery. And so really there's no soldering at all involved with this. It was just a matter of installing the fusion core into the bottom here. So the opening wasn't big enough initially, so I had to take a Dremel and cut out the inner piece here so that you could slide the fusion core into place. And then it's held in position here by hot glue. And there really was nothing else to that. That's really all you needed to do was install it into the bottom of the ship. Now, as you can see, it comes with two switches. One controls the speed of the lights here as they rotate around or appear to rotate, and then the other one is just the on and off switch, so I'll show you that shortly. One thing I did come across online were several modelers who just forewent building the, decided just to not build the bottom level because they were lighting it, and that's what I decided to do. So I left all my efforts to detailing the upper part here, which I'm sliding now into place. Okay, and so what's nice is that there are some open sections here that easily accommodate the battery, like so, and the switches, so you can hide them, and you don't have to be, you don't have to have the model wired out and hooked into some sort of switch on the outside. So that's pretty nice. Okay, so let's review the interior here. I detailed this ship with a decal set, again, and yet another reason why I was glad I waited to build it, because to have to paint every single one of these sections would have been a challenge. It would have been a challenge to do that, and I'm not sure it would have come out as clean as these decals looked. So the decals are great because they come with decals for each of these sections, including the doors. And in this hatch here, they even simulate the landing pod or the space pod that's supposed to sit behind that door, so you can see the window to the space pod there. And there's further detailing along these panels that are behind the stasis tubes. Now, if you go online, you'll find quite a few good examples, at least I have anyway, of people who have really done a nice job to light this model up. They'll even light up the stasis tubes and make them more accurate. But really, I wanted just to get it built, and I used, most of these are the pieces that came with the model, with the exception of the two seats here. What's also nice about the decal set, it came with this circular piece here, or sticker if you will, and that's really, really nice because to try to paint an exact circle like this and to make it look right is a challenge in and of itself. So it was fairly simple to just paint the floor with this brownish color and then to apply the sticker right on top of that, and it looks really, really clean. Okay, and a quick word about the two chairs here. I got these chairs online, same place I got the landing pads at. Again, I was lucky enough to still find that they were still selling the chairs for this particular version of the ship. Now, one big defect here that you see is the floor around here. So the model actually came with these two stubs, I guess, if you will, that basically were molded into the floor, and those were supposed to serve as the chairs. Obviously not very accurate. So I had to grind away at the stubs using my Dremel tool, and unfortunately I did not do that good of a job, and I ended up unfortunately gouging some of the floor here, so I had to try to cover that with some styrene here and painting that the same color as the floor. Unfortunately, it really didn't come out all that great. You can see where the plastic piece lies here, and so it was really hard to cover up this seam because this panel here is also molded to the floor, so I didn't have enough room to try to cover that up. So I did the best I could. Luckily, you don't really see this whole lot because the upper part of the ship is covered by the exterior. So it hides it, and so it's not perfect. But again, it's well, what can you do? It's already done. So pointing out the decals here, again, really nice detailing here that adds a lot of a nice touch to the ship itself. There's even decals on these interior computer sections right here as well. Okay, so this is the inside of the top piece here, and as you can see, here is that separation between that middle section and the side walls here. But what I wanted to point out here, though, are the lights that I used to light the interior. So very, very simple. I kept it pretty simple. What I wanted was some lights to help highlight the interior details that I spent a lot of time on. So what I did was I went to culttvman.com and purchased these strip LED lighting pieces that you can get. They make lighting really easily because there's no soldering at these places here where the lights connect to the wires. Very similar to what's available now with the lighting kit for the Polar Lights 350 scale Enterprise. You just simply slide the connectors on here and connect everything to the 9-volt battery. So I did have a friend help me solder this together with the switch here, and you know, when you turn them on, the lights come on and they light the interior. So pretty simple, you know, pretty basic, and it's enough lighting to highlight the interior detailing. Okay, so this is the lighted fusion core. As you can see, it adds a pretty nice effect to the ship. It really makes the ship stand out. So I was really happy with this effect here. By the way, if you hear knocking in the background, that's just the water here, so you'll just have to excuse that. Anyway, so the fusion core comes with these 2 switches, as I said. And so let me just kind of show you the difference here. So there's that mode here, and then you can flip the switch and then the lights will rotate faster. So if you remember from the show, the lights will really rotate fast when the ship is in flight, and then if it's just kind of sitting on the ground and the engines are on, you know, it kind of sits that way with the lights not going as quickly. Okay, and then as we move upward a little bit here, you can see how the lights on the inside are lighting up the interior pretty nicely. So it's enough again to take a peek inside and see all the inner detailing there. So not too sophisticated, but you know, I was really happy the way it turned out. It's enough for me to highlight all the details that are inside. Okay, so this is the ship. I've kind of turned on the lights here. This is the ship in the dark, and again, you can see how the interior lights work quite nicely to light up the interior. And I really like the way the dome lights up as well there, giving a nice effect. And of course, there is that lighted fusion core. Kind of pulling back here, you can see how it really makes a nice effect there. And so pretty happy the way that turned out. Okay, and then just to spend a few minutes talking about the paints that I used to detail the ship. Pretty basic. It really boils down to these 4 colors. The interior floor was painted with this dark tan from Testers. The interior walls were painted with this Panzer interior buff. The main instrument panel was painted with this interior green, which you do have to lighten with some white there because it does come out a little dark from the bottle. And in the exterior, I chose this mica silver from Tamiya. So this was nice because I didn't have to use a metallizer. And as nice as metallizers can look, I personally find they're kind of a mess to work with. You have to buff them, and you can get fingerprints on it. And what I really enjoyed about this paint was that it dried very quickly, and it gave the surface a little texture, and you can't get fingerprints on it. It actually was it's a pretty nice paint to work with, and I eventually did coat this with a semi-gloss because I didn't want it to look too shiny. But overall, it really turned out nice. I was very happy with it. And finally, something that I got again from one of my favorite websites, culttvman.com. He was printing a book. I really don't know if you can find this book anymore, but he had available this book called The Ultimate Guide to the Jupiter 2. And essentially this is a booklet that has all kinds of pictures and advice on how to detail the model. There are definitely some quite impressive builds that you'll see highlighted in this book. So it just helped me, because again, I'm just not an expert on this ship. It helped me with deciding on how to detail and paint the inner part of the ship and so forth. So if you can get a hold of it, it's a pretty nice guide to have. Again, I'm just not sure if it's still in print. Alrighty, so there you have it. There's my Polar Lights Jupiter 2 model, and hopefully this video provided you some advice on how to build a ship, and certainly you can drop me a line if you have any questions, and I will be seeing you in another video soon. Take care, and thanks again for watching. I really appreciate it.